There's two sides to every story. There's black and there's white. Literally.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another wonderful week with the one and only Kay, the Texas girl in a Georgia world, or in this case, for this week, a Miami world. Now, I would like to say that it is Sunday, June 1st, and I'm sitting on the relaxing beaches of Miami, Florida, which I actually was when I originally recorded this episode. But y'all, when I got home to publish the episode, my stupid behind accidentally deleted the entire recorded episode, which had me hotter than fish grease, y'all. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and re-record it. Planned on doing that yesterday, but for those of y'all that follow me, y'all know I spent all night in the ER with my little one because some weird thing happened and he had some weird reaction and couldn't walk. So his legs puffed up to the size of Nemo, and I had to go to the hospital and be with him all night. So I am just now getting the opportunity to re-record because yeah, I had to give y'all the season finale because I got to catch up and start working on the next season. Yes, season 3 is on Sunday. I got to keep the ball rolling. You know what I'm saying? But originally I was recording on the beautiful beaches of Miami, Florida. Like I loved Miami. Although I will say that initially when I got there, oh, the Texas was about to come up out of me real quick. Baby, these folks do not believe in personal space. Like, as soon as I got outside of the airport to get on the shuttle for the hotel, folks was literally like walking right in front of me, like, and I'm talking about like close enough that I could smell, what they had for breakfast or lunch or whatever. Like this one chick legit was like 2 inches away from my face standing in front of me. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, let me get out of your way because clearly you didn't see me standing here. Like, I just knew I was gonna put hands on somebody. And I hadn't eaten yet because I had to fly and I was like, yo, I ain't wanna, put nothing on my stomach or whatever. So like, let me tell y'all, being hangry and annoyed at the same time is not a good thing. But nevertheless, I made it. I had a blast. Like it was so much fun. I was everywhere, shout out to my big bro Rob. He was like my personal chauffeur and security all in one. I was out there handling some business. We ended up going to a comedy show, some clubs, hit some hot spots. It was awesome. I definitely needed that trip. Like, although I, did have to handle a lot of business, like a lot of business was handled. Your girl is tired, okay? Like, literally, I am legit booked up every weekend until November. But I'm not complaining though, because I'd much rather be booked and busy than sitting at home feeling like I'm not, doing enough. So, but at any rate, what y'all sipping on? Me, I am enjoying a nice little soda. Yep. Originally, when I was recording, I was enjoying me a nice little mimosa. Y'all, they had this one spot called Bodega. They had these frozen margaritas. Like it was insane. They were so good. It had me on my ass. Okay. I gotta be careful next time I go to Miami because them things was powerful. So tonight I'm sipping on a soda because I definitely gotta go to work tomorrow. And yeah, don't want to be, out here drinking or whatever before I go to work. So, it's kind of a light night for me. So I hope y'all got y'all drinks ready. Now, In case y'all were under a rock all of this time and didn't hear the last episode, shame on you. This is the season finale, baby. Season 2 finale, to be exact. And this week's case is definitely one of those that you just have to sit back and question, why in the hell did this man ever exist? So let's get into it. Y'all ready? Hop on in and buckle up, baby, because we about to take a ride back to 1992 in good old Louisiana. Wait a minute, baby. Let me tell y'all. Y'all read me for filth when I was pronouncing some of these names. Okay. Like, listen, I ain't gonna always get it right. But it was definitely entertaining. Like, y'all had me on the flow. In my defense, they should just spell the shit how it sounds. So when someone reads it, that's how they pronounce it. Like, one of the high school names was what I thought was like Avoyalus, and it was pronounced of oils. Why didn't they just spell it like it's pronounced? I mean, like, I really was trying, y'all was getting on me so bad, but, my bad, I'm working on it, okay? Like I said, I'm not from Louisiana, baby. I'm from good old Texas. We y'all neighbors, so, hey, I'm just saying. Alright, y'all, so let's go ahead and get ready to dive back into this week's case. Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. This week's case involves Connie Warner, victim, Randy Mabrewer, victim, Gina Wilson Green, victim, Geraldine Barr DeSoto, victim, Charlotte Murray Pace, victim, Pamela Kennemore, victim, Trinisha Danae Colum, victim, Carrie Lynn Yoder, victim, Jacqueline Sims, surviving victim, Cassandra Green, surviving victim, Diane Alexander, surviving victim, and the infamous murderer of the week, Derrick Todd Lee, also known as the Baton Rouge serial killer, and Sean Vincent Gillis, the other Baton Rouge serial killer. Yeah, I bet y'all didn't see that one coming, now did you? Now, when we last left off, Derrick had been arrested in Atlanta, Georgia. He had been on the run after he attacked Diane Alexander, and her son came home early, ultimately saving her life. So, knowing that he left a living witness that would, identify him, Derrick took off. Everybody was looking for him. Police were looking for him. They were checking with his wife, Jacqueline, and Homegirl was not talking at all. Well, initially. People were trying to find him, and, lo and behold, he made it from Louisiana all the way to Atlanta. Damn. I wonder why those inmates from New Orleans didn't think about that. Like, I think only 2 of them actually made it to Texas, but, then again, they got caught. See, some of them just stuck to Louisiana, which to me ain't too smart. My thing is, if I'm gonna be on the run, I'm running far, far, far away. Like, I'm going somewhere where you can't find me. I'm talking about like out the country where I can avoid extradition. Like, I know they caught, majority of them. I think the only 2 niggas that's left is Derek and Antoine. My money is on Antoine. Baby, that man is cocky as hell. Not you out here posting up at pool parties and taunting the police like clearly he don't give a damn, okay? But my money is on Antoine. Like, I think he gonna be the last one to go down if he get caught, y'all. I need to know who y'all got y'all money on. Anyways, so I feel like Derek had, the same mindset on some whole, all right, let me get the hell up out this city. It's too hot. And he did just that. And on May 27th, 2003, the Atlanta Police Department, they go ahead and they locate Derek outside of a tire shop. And, he doesn't put up a fight or anything. Like, he complies and he gives himself up willingly. They already had his DNA sample that they took back on May 5th in Louisiana, and it was a direct match to Carrie Lynn Yoder because she was his last victim that he killed. And she had his DNA directly on her. The Atlanta Police Department was, baby, they were strutting around like peacocks. At the time that, they had the police chief, Richard Pennington, who talked to the media, he was like, I know that we have taken a very dangerous person. That's a serial murder suspect off the streets of Louisiana. And I'm sure the citizens of Louisiana are proud as well that we've taken this very dangerous person off of our streets. So they extradite him and they take him back to Louisiana and they begin their investigation. And Derek gets ready to go to trial. Now, this is where things start to get interesting because the prosecutors have to figure out what exactly they can charge Derek for as far as the deaths of these women, especially when some of them, like Randy Mabrewer, her body was never found. So now they have to try to figure out, all right, what we gonna do? How we gonna handle this? And they have to be careful because remember, initially when these killings started happening, the police thought that the killer was white. But you can't beat DNA. And that's how they determine how they're going to charge Derek. They go back and check the DNA of all the victims, and the DNA matched for the 2001 death of Gina Wilson Green. It matched for the 2002 death of Geraldine DeSoto. It matched for the 2002 death of Charlotte Murray Pace, for the 2002 death of Pam Kennemore, for the 2002 death of Trinisha Colum, and of course, for the 2003 death of Carrie Lynn Yoder. And then you have the surviving victim, Diane Alexander, who was pretty much going to be the prosecution's star witness. So Derek was charged for first degree murder of 7 women total. Unfortunately, with Randy Mabrewer and Connie Warner, they weren't able to link him to those, but that's because Derek had somewhat of a fan club, or as some would like to call it, a copycat. Derek was such an inspiration that Sean Vincent Gillis decided, hey, if he can do it, so can I. Now, who is Sean Vincent Gillis? Whew, mobbers, I am so glad y'all asked because, baby, that is a very good question. Now, although Sean is, shall we say, pigment challenged, he studied everything that Derek did. And when all of these women were turning up missing, and the police were thinking, oh, there's no way that Derek could do this. Derek is just some nigga off the street. He's not that smart. The killer got to be white. They were wrong. Well, to an extent. The same time that Derek was going around killing all of these women, Sean Gillis was doing the exact same thing. Sean Vincent Gillis was born June 24th, 1962, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to Norman and Yvonne Gillis. Now, oddly enough, I feel like his story is almost the same as Derek's to an extent, because right after he was born, his father Norman was like, yeah, I can't do this. And he left, just like, peaced out. And I feel like maybe Norman saw something in Sean that nobody else could see. Like, see, parents be knowing that their kids ain't gonna be shit at an early age. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe Norman looked at Sean and was like, yeah, this little motherfucker here ain't about to be shit. He giving me serial killer vibes. I'ma let his mama take care of him. I'm out. Okay, no, for real. In reality, his dad had some type of mental health issues because when Sean was only like a year old, his father had held a gun to his head. And, Yvonne, his mom, she's freaking out. She's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is our child. What's wrong with you? And so he decided that he was going to leave because he didn't want to hurt, her or their son for that matter. So he leaves and he checks into a mental institution to get himself together, like actually several of them. And even though he wasn't in the picture, the good thing is that Sean had a very good relationship with his father's parents. So, he got to have both sets of grandparents around. But like I said, you can tell certain kids ain't gonna be shit. Like, I was serious when I said that. And Sean was one of them because when he was like 10 years old, he and his mom ended up moving into this neighborhood in Baton Rouge that was like up and coming. And it was something that, Yvonne could afford and she was proud of because it was hers. But the neighbors weren't really feeling her child like that. Like, they weren't feeling Sean. Like, the kids were just like, Mom, he gives us the willies. Ew, all of that. And of course, she's just like, My son is perfect. He's wonderful. He's just awesome. Wrong. In her eyes, she thinks that her son is perfect. She thinks that he's behaving normally. She's talking about how, well behaved he is and how she only had to spank him once in his entire life with a little thin belt. And that, she just felt so bad that after she did it, she never did it again because if he acted up, she would just take away TV privileges and all of that. See, now y'all already know in a black household, that ain't gonna fly. Baby, misbehaves if you want to. I'm gonna break my foot off in your ass, okay? And you gonna go outside if you living with your grandma, like I know I did at one point. You gonna get your ass whooped. Then you gonna go outside, cut you a switch, and don't try to get slick and cut some little thin stuff. Nah, baby, that's only gonna make it worse, okay? And then you still gonna end up getting grounded and losing your TV privileges too. You're gonna end up sitting in that room where it's just walls and silence in there, and the only thing you can do for fun is take a nap. Okay. Oh, so it was just me. Oh, so ain't nobody gonna fess up and say that they got in trouble at one point. Okay. But for the most part, Sean had I guess you could say, okay childhood. He attended Redemptorist High School, and he made a couple of close friends, John Rosa and John Green, and they used to all hang out together, but them hanging out together actually started to change his behavior for the worse because as he got older, surprise surprise, he gets into more trouble. Like he even went through this phase where he was worshiping the devil. See, that's that weird shit right there. That's what I'm talking about. But according to his mama, he's just so perfect. Okay. Child, one of the neighbors wakes up at like 3 in the morning one day, right? And she goes outside to find a now 16-year-old Sean banging on the trash can. And when she asks him, like, what is wrong with you? He tells her, I'm mad because I don't have a girlfriend. Speaking of girlfriends, I'm gonna let her say this part. Ooh, child, the caucasity of it all. Like, are you freaking kidding me? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Jesus and the chickens ain't even awake yet. What is wrong with you? Like, what kind of delulu shit is this? You just that mad that you ain't getting no pussy that you decide to get your ass up at 3 o'clock in the morning and bang on some trash cans? Okay, let that be my child. See how y'all don't see me on the news. Like, does that even remotely sound normal? I don't think so. And unfortunately, the trouble don't stop there. Like, I think it only got worse because when he turned 17, his grandfather, which was Norman's father, passes away. And this is the first time that Sean has to see his father since he was 1 years old. Now, they actually started to develop a friendship or a relationship, whatever you want to call it. And you would think that his life was turning around, but unfortunately, it did not. And a year later, he gets arrested for criminal trespassing. But he was still able to graduate high school, and both of his parents were there, cheering him on. That's my baby. But now it's after graduation. And one day, Sean's hanging out with his dad, and his dad has these pictures. And so he was like, hey, Pops, why you got all these pictures of these naked men doing all this stuff? And Norman shocks the hell out of Sean. And he said, well, Sean, son, I'm gay. And that freaked Sean all the fucking way out. He was like, um, yeah, I don't know if I can do this. So he kind of, fell back a little bit, actually, all the way, and decided to let Norman battle his own demons. Now, Norman calls him one day and, he's needing his son. He was like, hey, son, I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. I would love it if you and your mom came to visit me in California. But Sean couldn't get past his daddy being gay, and he let him know, uh, you want me to come see you after that bullshit you told me and what I saw? Yeah, I ain't coming. And just as quickly as his relationship began with his father, poof, it was over. So now Sean is getting older and he's, working a regular job, attending community college, all of that. He gets a certification in computers. And then one day, his mother says, "Well, Sean, sweetheart, listen, I got a job offer in Atlanta. I'm going to have to move. Do you want to move with me?" And he thinks about it and he thinks and thinks. I'm sorry, y'all. I love that song. I know it's from Blues Clues, but don't judge me, judge your mammy, okay? I know a lot of podcasters do that. They were like, "Oh, he thinks and thinks and thinks." Sorry. Listen, that thing is catchy, okay? But anyway, so after he considers moving, he tells her, "No, mom, it's time that I break out on my own and, go live my life." And so his mother moves to Atlanta, but she's still being the good mom and helping her son out, sending him money when she can, all of that. But now Sean is by himself and he's not living with his mom. He's on his own. So here's where the similarities begin with Derrick. Okay. It's 1992 and Sean is now 30 years old. It's no day in particular, and Sean's outside with one of his neighbors and he's looking in the window of the house of one of his neighbors. So the neighbor sees him and they call the cops, and the cops show up and Sean play that shit cool. He tells the police, "Oh, I was just looking for my cat." So they check his ID and they're like, "Oh, okay, you got a warrant for some traffic violations, Mr. Gillis." So they arrest him, but he ends up, getting released. And around this time was when Derek had committed his first murder, which was Connie Warner. Now, she was also one that reported a peeping Tom, so the cops thought that it was somebody else because they had just arrested Sean for the same thing. Well, until 1994. Now, in 1994, Sean had actually met somebody. He meets a woman named Terry Lemoyne at her job, and he asked her out, and she said yeah. And they started dating, but they ain't fucking. Like, since they had been together, they had only fucked like twice. And one day they get into this argument, and Terry slaps fire out of his ass. Now, he ain't hit her back, but he's like freaking out. Why you hit me? He is crying, y'all. And Terry is sitting there like, okay, what the hell? Like she was caught off guard. So she apologizes, she's like, "I'm sorry, babe. I didn't mean to hit you." And he's just like, "It's okay. I love you. Let's not be violent with each other anymore." And after that, they get real serious. But that wasn't enough for him. Now we all know that Derek was coined the Baton Rouge serial killer. Ironically, Sean was nicknamed the other Baton Rouge serial killer. Okay, remember, Derek had a thing for the young college girls and then the, few other random women. But Sean had a thing for them old bitches, them geriatric gals, okay? His very first victim was a woman by the name of Anne Bryan. She was 82 years old. Supposedly, he was just so stressed out about life that he was just going to break in and just rape her. Now, Anne lived in an exclusive retirement home at St. James Place. So Sean breaks in and he starts to rape her, but she starts screaming, "Help! Help me! Help!" And it freaks him out. So he cuts her throat and then just starts stabbing her over and over and over. Like he stabbed her 50 times and then he just leaves. And just like Derek, after that first kill, he kind of, chilled out for a little minute. So he committed his first murder in 1994, but he didn't start killing again until 1999. So he waited about 5 years, and even then it was a little different. See, Sean is starting to have a little bit of a sick obsession. Now, it's 1994 and his girl Terry had gotten him a job at the same convenience store that she worked at. And, she wanted him to get some independence because she found out that Sean's mama was still taking care of him by sending him some money. How are you a 32-year-old grown ass man and you still got your mama paying your bills? You ain't really on your own. And it didn't help that, Sean also had developed an alcohol problem, much like his daddy. He drank a lot, which, was upsetting to Terry. So she tells him, "Hey, I'm gonna go get you a job where I work. This will kind of, make you stand on your own 2 feet. And you know what? We'll just go ahead and move in together." So in 1995, when Sean is like 33 years old, they decide to move in together, and Terry thought, well, shit was about to be different. You thought. She's thinking, we live together now, so maybe I can get me some more loving from a stud muffin. I'm sorry, I can't believe she found this Jeffrey Dahmer, John Casey looking ass dude attractive. I could. I'm sorry, y'all. How? How was that attractive? Just how? But y'all gotta remember, I told y'all in all the time they've been together, they've only had sex like a few times, okay? She's got it in house, so it should be easier, right? But when she questions him on it, Sean gives her this weird explanation of, baby, I'm addicted to porn. And Terry's like, what? She's in shock. She's like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? But instead of, him stopping, she kinda just, like, learns to deal with it until he starts showing her pictures of dead women, and she's like, okay, well, that's a little weird." And so she's like, "Well, Sean, what is wrong with you? Why would you show me this? This is disgusting." And Sean is cracking up laughing. Clearly, he is entertained. And he's like, "This ain't funny to you, darling?" And she's looking at him like, "Hell no, this isn't funny. This is disturbing." But eventually, she just learns to deal with it. Well, I guess if you can't enjoy graphic images with the one you love, you gotta find an outlet in another way. And that's what Sean did on January 4th, 1999. Now, it's been a couple of years since he committed his first murder, and Sean is out driving around when he sees this prostitute, Catherine Hall. She's 29 years old and she's out on the streets, and he calls her over and he's like, "Hey, how much for some head? How much for you to suck my cock?" And she tells him $50. I don't know, what it really is. It just sounds like an amount you should say. I don't know. So he tells her, "Okay, cool." So she gets in his car and he drives off. And once he's away from any witnesses, he puts a zip tie around her neck and tries to strangle her. And she's fighting, trying to get away. And she actually does. But then he catches her and stabs her 16 times. Then he takes her clothes off after she's dead and completely mutilates her body. He puts her back in the car, drives to another location, and just dumps her like she's trash. The next morning, she's found, and of course, Sean is long gone. It didn't really take him long after that to get into the swing of things. This time, he doesn't wait no 2 years. He only waited 4 months. In May of 1999, he sees Hardy Schmidt, this 52-year-old South Baton Rouge wife and mother of three, and she's jogging. And I guess he liked what he saw because he was looking for her for quite a while. Like he spent like 3 weeks just driving in that area looking for her every day until he found her on Quail Run Drive. So when he does see her, what does he do? He hits her with his car, knocking her into a ditch. When he gets out of the car to see if she's still alive, he takes like some heavy duty plastic wrap and he wraps it around her neck and pushes her into his car. Then he drives his car to this park off of Highland Road and rapes her and kills her. He puts her nude body into the trunk of his car and he goes home. Her body is still in the trunk of his white Chevy Cavalier when he decides to take his girl Terry out to eat, y'all. She gets in the car and she's smelling something. And she tells him, "Baby, something smells funny." And he tells her, "Oh, yeah, I hit a squirrel. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it." A squirrel? So once they're done with dinner, he goes back home, he drops her off, and he rolls out. He was like, "All right, I got to get rid of the body." So he dumps Hardy's body in a bayou off of Highway 61 in St. James Parish. 2 days later, her body is found. So a few months go by and Sean is still working and he and Terry are still going strong, and he's as sweet as can be, minus his addiction to porn and the love of graphic images of dead women, all of that. So November 12th, 1999, Sean sees his next victim, 36-year-old Joyce Williams. And Joyce is another prostitute that he propositions the same way that he did Catherine. She gets in the car and he puts the zip tie around her and he kills her with the zip tie. But this time, while Terry is at work, he takes Joyce to his house and mutilates her, messes her body up completely, and starts cutting off her body parts. And this motherfucker turns into some Hannibal Lecter type shit because he ate her skin. Y'all, he cut off her nipples and ate them. What in the entire fuck? He puts her body parts in a bag and just sits it in the back seat. Then goes to get Terry from work. Like, girl, how the fuck did you not notice there all this shit in your back seat? Like, ugh. So once he drops her off, he goes to Iberville Parish and dumps this girl's body on the east side. Now, the discovery of her body took a while. Her body wasn't found until like 2 months later, which was like around January of 2000, but by then, Sean was already on to his next victim, 52-year-old Lillian Robinson, yet another prostitute. He propositions her the same way that he did the others, and he also takes her to his house. But he didn't really get enough time to mutilate her the way he wanted to because Terry was getting off work and he had to go get her. So instead of him mutilating her, y'all, I can't make this shit up if I wanted to. Instead of this man mutilating her, he takes out his little dick and puts it in her mouth and starts playing with her body. He is literally fucking the mouth of a corpse. This man is just fucking weird. He takes her to this deserted area that's like a little bit outside of Baton Rouge in the Atchafalaya Basin, and he just dumps her body like it's trash. 2 months later, March of 2000, some fishermen are out, getting ready to go fish, and they discover her body. Now, are these places starting to sound familiar to y'all? Yep, because these are some of the same places that Derrick was dumping his victims. See, Sean had heard of Derrick as far as him being a serial killer and, all of these women coming up missing that he didn't have anything to do with. And he admired his work and would actually start collecting newspaper clippings of the stories on the, people that Derrick had killed. Like, ain't that some sick shit? So it's now October 2000, and Sean goes to New Iberia to go see his goddaughter, Christina. So while he's spending time with her, he sees 38-year-old Marilyn Neville. And she's a prostitute and he wants her bad. Like he's taking Christine out and, spending time with her and everything. And when he sees Marilyn, he's like, okay, it's time to cut this visit short. So he drops Christina off and he doubles back to Proposition Maryland. The same way he did the others, she gets into the car, he kills her with the zip ties, takes her body to his house, and this man literally gets naked and decides to take a shower with Marilyn. Y'all, it just keeps getting, is weirder a word? Because it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. This man took a shower with a dead woman, and then he just decides, I'm bored, and takes her body and just leaves it on top of a levee. Didn't hide it, didn't try to bury it, just left it on top. And later on, a man just walking through the woods sees it and was like, what the hell is that? So he calls 911 and they come out and they find her body. And of course, the cops didn't really think anything of it because the women that are being killed are all prostitutes. But, they're still people. Now, I don't know if he lost his thrill for it or what, but he kind of chilled out for a minute. I don't know. Maybe he wanted Derek to get some time to shine. Who knows? But he didn't start killing again until 3 years later when he killed Johnny Mae Williams. Now, Johnny Mae wasn't a prostitute or anything originally. She had a lot of friends and family, and, she fell on hard times. Like, she had actually worked for Sean a couple of times when she had come to his house to clean for him, because money was wasn't really good. And, she was turning to prostitution and everything. And now at this point, Sean is old as fuck. He is 41. So he sees Johnny Mae and Johnny Mae down bad. She's addicted to drugs. She's turned to prostitution. So Sean goes to her and he was like, "Hey, I got something for you. I can help you out with some money if you need it." And she does need it. So she goes to his house. He kills her the same way he does all of his victims with the zip ties, and this time he cuts off her hands. Ooh, and puts them into some jars, and then he just drives to this embankment and leaves her body naked on top of the embankment. But he keeps her hands, which is so weird. Like it's giving very much cannibal. Okay, so hope y'all are keeping up because at the time that Sean had killed Johnny May, Derrick has already been arrested. Remember, Derrick got arrested in May of 2003. Sean killed Johnny May in October of 2003. So, this is why the cops were kind of leery on the whole Derrick being a serial killer for all of these women because they can only link him to the ones that his DNA matches to. But what helped them differentiate between Derrick and Sean is the type of women that were killed. And also the fact that Derrick was stupid enough to leave his DNA just about everywhere because he clearly didn't give a damn. So Sean is feeling kind of cocky because, unlike Derrick, he hasn't gotten caught. And in February 2004, he kills his final victim, Donna Bennett Johnson. She's a 43-year-old prostitute that kind of had the same path as Johnny May. She started out, doing good for herself, but then got addicted to drugs and everything. He kills her using the zip tie thing, mutilates her body, and then he cuts off her nipples and eats them. I'm so sick of this. Then he takes it a step further. He starts taking pictures with her, like with her and of her. Like he took like 50 pictures of her and then takes her to this location and where he can pose her body and takes more pictures of her. So in total, he's killed like 8 different women. But no one can really focus on him at the moment because of the fact that the focus was still on Derek. Derek is using Sean, though, as a means of him trying to prove his innocence and get off. Derek's telling the authorities, "Listen, I ain't kill all them people. Y'all got a whole serial killer on the loose. Yeah, but it ain't me, baby. I ain't do it. I was just peeping in the windows." But the difference is Sean didn't have any witnesses. Derek did. So in August of 2004, Derek's trial begins for the murder of Geraldine DeSoto, the LSU grad student. And let me tell you, this was the shortest trial in history. It only lasted 3 days. Like, damn. It took longer for Lazarus to. You know what? Never mind. I'm sorry. So, Johnson Quiffield was the deputy attorney general that prosecuted the case, and he was ready. He and Tony Clayton, they tell the jury this man talked his way into these women's houses. A lot of these places didn't show any evidence of forced entry. He tried to be more of a charmer than a bully. And they brought up the star witness, Diane Alexander. And Diane says, "I know exactly who did it." And she pointed right at Derek's smug ass. She said, "Although my eyes were closed, I saw you." And they asked her to describe him, and she describes Derek to the T. And the prosecutors, they tell the jury how he got into her house. He asked her if she had a portable phone he could use outside of her front porch. And as soon as she opened the door to give him the phone, he immediately changed his tone from being very polite and very nice. And within minutes, he was assaulting her. So the prosecution tells the jury how all of these women were very attractive and accomplished and well educated. They were brutally, killed. Some of them were raped, stabbed, and strangled. And so during the trial, Derek has his attorney, a public defender named Tommy Thompson. And Tommy is basically arguing that, Derek is acting out of some type of mental illness, but it didn't really fly with the courts because, bruh, he was sitting there acting like wasn't shit phasing him. But the defense is really trying to argue and say, well, how can we know for sure that it's Derek's DNA on these victims? You all took DNA from so many black men. But a DNA analyst from New Orleans testifies that through a specific Y chromosome test, 99.8% of the black male population could be excluded as the person whose DNA was found under Geraldine's fingernails, and that it was none other than Derrick Todd Lee. So that whole, oh, it could be anybody, yeah, no flubber. It's definitely you. Now, in addition to having Diane on the stand, the prosecution also has a very, shall we say, unlikely witness, Derrick's son, Dedrick Lee. Now, his son gets on the stand, and his son is only 15 years old at the time. And he tells the jury how the knife that was found in his father's car had been at the house, the same knife that was used to kill his victims. And they're asking Dedrick, can you tell us who this belongs to? And he tells them flat out, yeah, that belongs to my dad. And it only gets worse from there. During the middle of the trial, the funniest shit happened. Derek says, Your Honor, can I please fire my attorney? Because I ain't getting a fair deal. He only spent like an hour with me when I was locked up. And Judge Robert Free is like, no, sir. You asked for a public defender, and that's what you're gonna get, a public defender. You can't fire a public defender, and you damn sure can't afford one yourself. You can't afford to represent yourself. So the answer is no. So, like I said, it only took 3 days, and the jury took less than 90 minutes. Y'all, they went back there, had some coffee, and said, All right, y'all know what we came here to do. Let's go ahead and convict this black ass motherfucker. And they decide that they find Derek Todd Lee guilty of first degree murder of Geraldine DeSoto and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So he was sent to the West Baton Rouge Parish Prison. But he wasn't done. I mean, this man did kill at least 7 women, and that was just proven, just from DNA evidence alone. Derek has to go to trial again 3 months later for the murder of Charlotte Pace. Now, if you remember, she was killed back on May 31st, 2002. This trial was difficult in the beginning because they had to subpoena over 1,000 jurors because at this point, the case had gotten so much publicity, and, you can't have any impartial jurors because that could cause the exclusion, of a fair trial. So after a while, they finally get the jurors after, like, I mean, many dismissals and everything. And Derek goes to trial. And once again, Diane is on the stand and she identifies her attacker. And her son gets on the stand and talks about how he came home and scared Derek off. So the prosecution is introducing evidence from the other homicides to kind of, help that be the nail in the coffin. And of course, he's found guilty once again of first degree murder of Charlotte Pace, and he's found guilty for the attempted murder of Diane. And the jury comes back and they say, All right, instead of giving him life in prison, we're going to give him the death penalty. Now, while this is going on, Sean is dealing with his own issues. See, after he killed Donna Johnson, Louisiana is on pins and needles. Law enforcement is just like, we got to do something about this because there's too many women coming up missing, too many women coming up dead. All these women are all out here taking these self-defense classes and they scared to leave their homes. Like, what we going to do? So, March 3rd, 2004, a task force is formed to look into the deaths of Donna Johnson, Johnny May, and Catherine Hall. And, some of the other homicides that were unsolved as well. So, about a month later, towards the end of April, police get an anonymous tip and they head to Sean Gillis's home. Agent Jeff Methvin starts asking him questions and trying to, see what he knows about the murders. And he asks Sean to consent to a DNA swab. And Sean agrees to it. You big dummy. Why did you do that? But he agreed to it. Maybe he thought he was invincible. Who knows? So they get the DNA swab and they bring Sean in for an interview. They know that he's guilty, but they don't have any real concrete evidence on him as of yet. So they have to let him go. Oh, but between the time that they let this man go and the next morning, they get all the evidence they need. And baby, SWAT came up in there and broke down that door. And they took him into custody for murder. And, his girlfriend Terry, she's just stunned. She's like, Sean, what's going on? What's happening? And Sean just looks at her and says, sorry. They take him into the station and they start questioning him, and he confesses to every last murder and then some. So they get a warrant to go and look at his house, and they go search everything, and they find all kinds of stuff. On June 10th, 2004, Sean Vincent Gillis is indicted for the murder of Donna Bennett. The prosecution is seeking the death penalty. Oddly enough, he had his trial right before Derrick had his, but instead of him doing an actual jury trial, he pleads guilty to Joyce Williams' murder in exchange for the death penalty to be removed. And he's sentenced to life in prison. July 2008, he goes to trial for the murder of Donna Bennett. Now, I don't know why he confessed to the murders and pleaded guilty to one and not the other, but he pleads not guilty, and on July 31st, 2008, the jury goes to deliberate at 3:03 p.m. and they come back at 5:45 p.m. They say, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Sean Vincent Gillis, guilty." Surprise, surprise, surprise. So they couldn't figure out if he deserved the death penalty or not. So his life sentence stuck and he was sent to the Louisiana State Penitentiary where there was like hard labor without parole. And finally, February 17th, 2009, he pleads guilty to the first degree murder of Marilyn Nevels. He gets another life sentence. That's a lot of life sentences, but damn. But yeah. Now, Sean is at the Louisiana State Penitentiary where he will be for the remainder of his life, unlike Derrick. Now, Derrick was supposed to, be sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Geraldine DeSoto, but then he got the death penalty for the murder of Charlotte Pace. So he was sentenced the exact same time as Sean was for the murder of Donna Johnson. They were literally, really on some, who could kill who better kind of vibe, I guess. But Sean didn't file any appeals. He was like, I did it, oh well. Oh, but Derrick did. Between his sentencing and 2015, he filed multiple appeals. His latest appeal was filed in 2015 to try to overturn the first degree murder conviction and the death sentence. But the Louisiana Supreme Court denied that appeal on September 18th, 2015, citing that evidence showed Derrick killed Charlotte in a brutal, ambitious manner that was both overwhelming and horrific. So Derrick filed a few more appeals that were ultimately denied until January 16th. Ooh, that's such a great day. But until January 16th, 2016, when he was rushed to the hospital from the Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola due to an unknown medical issue. Not even a week later, on January 21st, 2016, before 9 a.m., Derrick Todd Lee dies at the Baton Rouge Hospital at the age of 47. And well, let's just say not a lot of people were necessarily upset at his passing. Media outlets spoke with the prosecutor, John Sinquefield, about how he felt. And he said, as far as the death penalty portion, believe it or not, the outcome wasn't as certain as a lot of people might believe so today. He reached utter habit going South Louisiana and other parts of this country. The eerie part about this whole thing is now he's dead and he left here without explaining to these folks why. And there are a whole bunch of bodies out there that he could have given some closure to. These victims' families about it. He didn't do that. In a sense, he won. He left out of here. He didn't show any remorse, and now he's gone, and there will always be questions. And I mean, some of the families were upset, like Lynn Marino, one of the mothers of the victims. She wanted her face to be the last thing Derek saw before he died. But unfortunately, he passed before that could happen. Now, you would think that the story ends there, right? In the words of Rafiki from The Lion King, wrong again. Plot twist. Do you know how they say like father, like son? Well, The very same son that testified against his father ended up being put in his father's shoes 3 years after the trial. Diedrich gets arrested. For what, you ask? Murder. See, Diedrich and his friend Valente Brooks were hanging out in his room. They were talking about turning the bedroom closet into a studio. And Valente goes into his closet and he pulls out a gun out of his bag. And Diedrich's like, whoa, 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 where'd you get that from? And Valente tells Diedrich, I told you I was going to go get one. Hey, yo, let's take some pictures with it. Yeah, real smart. Now, Valente had told Diedrich that the gun wasn't loaded, and Diedrich didn't even bother to look. So he's just playing with the gun and pulls the trigger. And this is where I start to think,
You know you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
why in the hell didn't you at least look to see if the gun was loaded before you just pulled the trigger? Like, it's bad enough y'all damn playing with a gun in the first place, but you didn't even look to see if it was loaded? Of course, y'all know that the gun goes off and the bullet strikes and kills 16-year-old Valente Brooks. Diedrich goes running to his stepdad, David Green, and he tells him what happens, and they call 911. And Valente is face down on the bed with a gunshot wound underneath his chest. The cops get there and they arrest Diedrich. And at first, Diedrich is like he shot himself, but he later on confesses and says that they were playing with the gun and that it accidentally went off and he accidentally shot and killed his friend. And the investigators, they kind of believe him because it does look like it's a suicide initially. So they didn't want to close that theory out. But he ends up getting arrested and booked at the East Feliciana jail on one count of negligent homicide. So he gets out on bond, and the media quickly picks up the fact that Diedrich is Derrick Todd Lee's son. And of course, they're questioning the authorities as to the connection. And the sheriff, Jeff Travis, he tells them it don't matter who his father is. It doesn't matter what he did. He still would have been arrested on the same charge because it's based on the evidence that we have. The fact that he's his son is irrelevant to this case. He confessed, and we made an arrest based on the evidence we have at this moment. That doesn't mean the investigation is over. If anything changes, the charges can be enhanced. But the physical evidence, including information that was gathered during the autopsy, is consistent with what Derek said. They do believe that he shot him by accident. Listen, people, teach your kids to stop playing with guns, or better yet, how about this? Stop leaving guns to where fucking kids can get easy access like this. Why the hell did a 16-year-old boy have a loaded gun in the house? Why the hell did this boy not tell his friend that the gun was loaded or even bother to look? Because that very same friend ended up killing him, leaving his parents and sisters and classmates to mourn his death. Baby, Dietrich had a true angel or somebody looking over his shoulder because majority of his sentence got deferred. And he only had to do like 60 days in jail for negligent homicide. He got released September 11th, 2019. And since then, he's been kind of MIA. Like the judge did tell him when he originally sentenced him that he needed to attend college and that a condition of his sentence is that he's not allowed to have or be around guns. Like I'm almost certain that he probably hasn't and probably never will, especially after fatally shooting your friend by accident. I'm hoping that he is scarred for life on guns, but hopefully, none of the genetics that his father had is passed down to him, and he ends up killing a bunch of old women and college students. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of Derrick Todd Lee, the Baton Rouge serial killer, and his ultimate fan, Sean Gillis. And now it is time for Fair or Foul, where we look at the justice system to determine if the sentencing given was fair or if it was just some bullshit that's going to have us sitting back saying, what the fuck? Now, as it relates to Derek getting sentenced to life without parole and the death sentence, absolutely fair. That was the best sentence possible, and it sucks that this myopic Muppet Squidward Pillsbury Doughboy looking like when you first open a can of biscuits before they spread ass nigga died before he could be given that $42 cocktail. See, this is why I believe that if you give someone the death penalty, it needs to be executed within a few years of receiving it. He received the death penalty back in 2004, but yet he didn't die until 2016, and he died on his own volition. So he had an extra, 12 years of life. I know that, you typically have to file appeals and everything, but this man was able to file several appeals and they were all denied. This is why I strongly believe that once you get the death sentence, your ass needs to be done. That $42 cocktail or electrocution, or hell, even taking it old school and stoning his jigglypuff looking ass. But the sentencing was definitely fair. For Derek to, be able to kill as long as he did and to take out all those women, things should have been handled a long time ago. When he beat his girlfriend Cassandra, it should have been handled then. And it's a shame that so many people, were attacking his wife Jacqueline. She was subjected to him too. She was subjected to the abuse and mistreatment and everything. Cassandra was the one that actually pressed charges, and I feel like once they saw that he was, peeping in all of these windows and doing all of that, at some point, come on now, y'all got to increase them charges. You can't just say he was peeping and let him go. I know it's a misdemeanor, but this man is violent. Once is a mistake, more than once it becomes a choice, and he done it multiple times. Me personally, I would have been looking sideways once Connie had died. Like, she reported the peeping, but then all of a sudden something happens to her, and the fact that both Sean and Derek were both peeping in women's windows and whatnot, like, it seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like they were slack. The fact that law enforcement thought that this was a white man that was doing this the whole time. Granted, yes, there was a white man that was actually going around killing women, but he was out to kill old biddies and prostitutes. It's not excusable, but again, it doesn't mean that black men or black people can't be serial killers. It doesn't mean that black men aren't out here killing multiple women. This was a black man that was responsible for this, but yet they kept saying that black men could not be intelligent enough to go out and kill multiple women. That, that's the dumbest. Like, it, look, it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Murder does not have a bias or discrimination. This man showed you what he was capable of multiple times with the assault charges from his girlfriend and his wife, but yet Louisiana dropped the ball. Yet they said, oh, this can't be a black man that's responsible for killing all of these young college students. This has to be a white man. Like, do you hear how that shit sounds out loud? Like, what was the reason for you to really say that?
What was the reason?
To literally think that murders are minimalized to a specific race is ignorant. It's belligerent. It's audacity at its finest. Murder does not know race. Murder is murder, plain and simple. And in all actuality, the white man was the one that was going around killing the older bitches. The white man was the one going around killing all the prostitutes. He was emulating a black man out of admiration. The fuck? Derek was using his charm and fat ass ways to get inside of women's houses to manipulate them and rape them and maim them and kill them. And for whatever reason, y'all didn't look into it as you should have until DNA was literally, found on the victims. So if anything in the justice system that's fucked up, it's the Louisiana Police Department, Baton Rouge, New Orleans particularly. And it sucks that Derek's son now has that stain or that blemish. And, hopefully after such a tragic ordeal with him, shooting his best friend and everything, he learns a valuable lesson and doesn't go down the same path as his father. Like, I wish that, that young man nothing but success and, hopefully he's doing much better in his life. Like, I'm almost certain that everyone that is affected by Derek is probably happy that that little cretin is dead. And, I hope that he's getting his ass. Oh, I hope he getting his ass spread wide the fuck open in the pits of hell right now. Like, I sincerely hope that as he walks past the devil, that his ass sounds like an open hallway and it just whistles like a 16-car train while on fire. Mm, I'm sorry, y'all. That is all for this week's episode of the Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast. And that's a number one, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On X, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group, but please be advised if you don't answer the questions, you ain't getting in. Okay? It's that simple. But once you get in, welcome to the mob, y'all. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on. So leave a review. It only takes a few seconds, and these reviews matter. And now to those reviews. The first one comes from Spotify from Nova Queen on the Mother's Love episode, which was Laquita Calhoun. And it says, I love your podcast. I got my coworkers listening to your podcast. I listen to your show every day just so I can stay caught up on everything. Keep doing your thing, Queen, showing love all the way from Spain. Well, Nova Queen, to you I say gracias, Reina, which means thank you, Queen. Yes, I love hearing I got listeners from Spain. Ew. Baby, if you ever make it to the US, holla at your girl. We will go for a drink or something, child, okay? The next review comes from Apple Podcast and it's 5 stars from Sassafras9 and it is captioned so spicy. I am truly loving this podcast. The information is presented respectfully with just the right amount of seasoning to make things interesting and entertaining. You are right up there with Sisters Who Kill and Melanin Mayhem. Don't nobody do it like us. Miracles and blessings to you, Queen. Aw, now see, y'all gonna make a chick cry. Thank you so much for that. I try, so hard to make sure that you get the best from me. And of course, shout out to Sisters Who Kill and Melanin Mayhem. I tune in faithfully every Wednesday and Friday, especially Renee, because she got another one that she does every other Friday on top of that. How that woman got the time is beyond me. More power to her, because a chick be tuned in, okay? The last review comes from Spotify as well from Conley Jocelyn. It's on the Game Day Fumble episode, which was the Ray Caruth episode. And it says, discovered this podcast last week. It was love at first listen. Ha ha ha. I love everything about this podcast, especially your rants. Great job, Queen. Keep the episodes coming. Ah, thank you so much. I am feeling so blessed right now when it comes to this podcast. Like, y'all have no idea. Like, I'm getting all kinds of blessings and opportunities, and I can't wait to share it with y'all at this live show. Y'all, we are less than 2 weeks away from the live event, Saturday, June 14th, 2025, Margaritaville, located at 155 Centennial Olympic Park Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, y'all. ATL, shout it. Now, yours truly will be hosting my first live show. The last day to purchase tickets was May 31st. So if you have not purchased your tickets, so sorry for you. I do have a few more spots, but I'm going to come up with a cute way to, see if I'm going to give them away or not. I'm definitely excited to see everyone and meet everybody. We're going to have a great time. There's going to be great food. There's going to be special guests connected to the case. Now, I will tell y'all now that this is not going to be streamed on any of the streaming services. So don't go looking for it, okay? I got a couple of special announcements, and one of them is very, very big. And I have been holding on to it for over a month now, and I cannot wait to tell y'all about it. So those that are at the show will be the first ones to know, honey. Y'all are going to be exclusivity up in that piece. Also, remember, there will not be an episode June 15th. I may do like a little quick something or whatever because it's Father's Day that Sunday, but you're not going to get the usual from me for that week because I'll probably be somewhere, recuperating from celebrating for, such a great announcement. And those that are with me will be able to celebrate too. If you want to support the show or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning the soda that I've been drinking on tonight or whatever spirit y'all been sipping on, click the link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to this episode on and hit listener support to subscribe. Y'all know subscriptions start at like 99 cents and it gives you access to a lot of things. You can also donate via the Cash App at $infamous1pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. Donations go toward the research and all of that to keep it going. Shout out to the popcorn donators. Always love with y'all. I love y'all. Don't forget, I am also doing my ad special, $30 for 30-second advertisement. If you're interested, make sure that you email me. Take advantage of that while it is ongoing. If you have a case you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you want to leave a review, send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. Once again, people, please share, share, share. This podcast is growing by the day and it means the world. So keep sharing. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for your patience as I had to re record. And I will see y'all on Sunday with a brand new episode and a brand new season. Stay mobbing, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.